Home prices sink in the West while they rise in the East. What is going on with the housing market as it splits the country in half, and what is happening with home values? Now, take a look at this article from the New York Post. The headline reads, U.S. home prices shrink in West while East surges. Never seen anything quite like this. This is from Thomas Barabi. And it says, a bizarre geographic split has emerged in the embattled U.S. housing market, with home prices plunging across markets in the western half of the country as they rise in the eastern half. All 12 major markets located west of Texas, as well as in the city of Austin, when posted year over year price declines in January, according to data from mortgage analytics firm Black Knight, cited by the Wall Street Journal on Monday. The trend reversed in all 37 of the biggest markets located east of Denver, Colorado, including Austin. Each of those markets posted year over year price hikes in January, even as soaring mortgage rates and poor affordability put a damper on buying activity. And that's something I'm hearing from a lot of my colleagues and agent friends in the East of what is going on in their market. And while you would think, crash, 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 high rates, home affordability is out the window, but that is not what they're seeing in the East. My friends down in South Florida and New York, they're reporting, multiple offers again, above list price sales, and simply not enough homes on the market and more buyers than homes. Now, I know this article talks about the fall of home prices in the West, and we are seeing that, but you have to look at some of the data and where they're getting that. A fall from what? A fall from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and where that new benchmark is. Let's bounce right back over to that article and scroll down here. U.S. home prices have come under pressure over the last year as mortgage rates rise in response to the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes, and those are probably going to go up. The average 30-year fixed rate mortgage was 6.42 last week. It's actually higher today, an increase of 2% compared to 1 year ago, according to Freddie Mac data. Some of the sharpest price declines occurred in West Coast tech hubs that boomed during the COVID-19 pandemic. And here in Phoenix Metro, and that's what we're going to relate it to, is yes, we saw the highest appreciation year over year, and we led the country. And if we weren't leading, we were in the top 3. But we had over 38% year over year appreciation at one point, which is one, unsustainable, and it is absolutely insane. There's so many people that made a lot of money in that. When I saw sellers who bought a home, 8 months later sold it and made $100,000 without doing anything. And I'm not saying right or wrong, it's just, it is what it is. So when you're looking at that price decline, well, what is it a decline from? And keep in mind, yes, we have had a price decline here in Phoenix Metro, but it's still, it is expensive, and I don't want to say unaffordable, but it is less affordable to buy a home than it was a few years ago. Sorry about jacking this all around on you. So right now, we are still under 11,000 single-family detached homes for sale. But if you look here at the numbers, everything is trending in favor of the seller. Listing success rate is up. But right here, the average monthly sales price is up from yesterday, up from last week, up from last month, $544, and up from last quarter. Now it's down from a year ago at $30,000 at $574. So yes, it has declined, and it went down to $510 for average. Now median, we're at $418, up from $413 and $415, but down from $455. But still, that's expensive. Hooray! Your average home now costs you $540,000, and if you're a average home a buyer and you're only putting 5% down, and with PMI and everything else, your payment's going to be around $3,800 a month, and you need to make over $150,000 a month to be able to afford that home for most lenders. Now, if you're putting 20% down, your payment's still going to be above $3,000 a month, which is, for some people, they think that's affordable, but comparing to where the Phoenix Metro was, 2 years ago, and even into 2019, the average home price here was under $400,000, and the rate was lower. So now you have tripled, or not tripled, doubled your monthly payment for the same home. So yes, while prices have dropped here, it is still extremely expensive compared to where it was prior to this 38% year over year appreciation. So how much more does it need to drop? Honestly, it needs to drop quite a bit to get back to where in line, but I think that baseline, that benchmark has already been set. It's going to take a lot for that to happen. Now, depending on what your definition of a crash is, I don't know if we're going to see that here, just based on the trends. I mean, again, we are under inventory here. We do not have enough homes. However, something that may affect that is with the tech layoffs. And something I talked about a few weeks ago with Amazon laying off, Carvana, and just the cost of capital becoming more expensive for these companies. If they start laying off more and more, during the COVID times, everyone had money, the PPP loans and grants, and people were hiring. There weren't enough people. Well, now I feel like that's caught up, and layoffs are having to occur, and people get laid off. And then if they can't afford their home, thankfully they should have equity. But if they bought in the last year, they're not going to have that equity they need. And so right now, though, foreclosures are still really, really low. So don't think that the foreclosure train is here, because we're well away from that happening. So yes, while we are seeing drops in the West, it still needs to drop more to get to, I think, in my opinion, in line with where it should be. However, I really don't foresee that happening. I don't foresee it going from an average right now of 542 to sub 400. I really don't see it going below 480. However, who knows? It could go up even more at the trend we're following if inventory remains low, and it could drop. But just right now, what we're seeing, the trend is showing an upward in average sales price. But it is something to pay attention to while the East remains strong. Now, I was talking to an agent friend of mine in LA, and listed a home, and LA is one of the areas where they've had a big decline. However, they had 33 offers on this home, over 150 people through an open house. Now, this wasn't some underpriced, fix and flip. It wasn't a gimmick. That is what it is. I just listed a home, and within 2 days, we had 4 offers. So that is what we're seeing, and that's the reality. However, there are also people, though, who price their homes and think it is 2 years ago, and it sits. You still have to price it accordingly. But the difference between the East and the West, look at the job outlook, look at the homes, look at the cities where it is being affected. The cities where having those declines are some of the areas that had the highest appreciation year over year. So maybe they needed to be brought down a peg or two to get more in line with reality, but they're still above that baseline of those inflated prices, and homes are still selling for more than what most people thought they would. So what does this mean for the future, you as a home buyer? Well, honestly, I don't know, because that's a question you're gonna have to answer yourself. However, when it comes to buying a home, if you are set on buying, look at the monthly payment. Look at, can you afford that? Look at your monthly debt. Look at your consumer debt. Spend wisely. Do your research. If you're thinking about buying and selling in a year, 2 years, I would not buy. It may be more beneficial, a smarter move for you to rent. Just talk to someone, they were in a home renting it for $2,800. If they were to buy that same home, same neighborhood, their monthly payment would be around $3,700 based on what that home would sell for. So for some people, it makes sense to still rent, even though I know that's what most people say, don't rent, don't rent. But for them, it did. And they knew they were going to be moving in a year to 2 anyway. So in that case, like I said, don't try and day trade real estate, at least not right now in this crazy market. So whatever questions you have, thoughts, comments, let me know. If you're thinking about making that move to Phoenix, at least want to discuss it, reach out. My contact info is below. Follow me on Instagram, connect with me there. Watch this next video, and I'll see you next time.